This is super fast. What's happened to Marquez here? He tips it in. Whoa! Wow! Oh, dearie me! Unbelievable. The rear tyre just letting go in the most spectacular fashion. That is, oh, dearie me. That is a shocking crash from Marc Marquez. Wow, that is one of the biggest high sides I've seen in 25 years of covering this sport. Unbelievable. He had the big scare at turn 10 at the start of this session. Marquez. I was going to say, just saw a puff of dust, a cloud of debris, and it's Marc Marquez who has a miserable Mandalika Grand Prix. Listen to the groans from the fans in the background there in Indonesia today. No points for Marc Marquez. And now, two big reasons why he feels like he has no choice but to walk away from HRC next season.
Oh, Marc
Marquez has got a problem. He's not fallen. This is a technical issue.
Oh, it's on fire. Get off it, Marc.
Got to jump off that one. He won't realise this. He's going to get a very hot right boot right now. And he'll be jumping off that GP23 very quickly. So Marc Marquez, as smoke billows out of the belly pan, he's trying to get the marshals to get the fire extinguisher out.
Yeah, you heard it go there as he went up to fourth gear. You can hear not a lot from the onboard audio of Marc Marquez because the bike is no longer running.
Mandalika curse continues, and Marco Bezzecchi, the massive pre-race favourite from pole position and the sprint victory, is out early on in this Grand Prix.
And Marc looks hurt too. That was Marco Bezzecchi going for too much, too early after another disastrous start. The pre-race favourite and the new world champion both out on that one.
He is cursed, he is jinxed here, isn't he, in Mandalika?
All the best in motorsport have their dud. Max Verstappen in Singapore, Fabio Quartararo in Phillip Island, Lando Norris in criticism. I'm just kidding. But still, all the best have their dud. Their kryptonite, you could say. And Marc Marquez is no different. Mandalika has always been a bit of a dud track for him. MotoGP have been going there since 2022, and that exact year, Marc Marquez had the biggest high side of his career. This high side was in the warm-up, and it caused him a big case of diplopia, also known as double vision. In 2023, Marc Marquez was on a Honda that constantly wanted to chuck him off, so seeing him down in the gravel trap was unfortunately not much of a surprise. In 2024, Marc Marquez's Ducati caught fire and poured smoke all over the track. This caused Marc a third DNF in 3 years around Mandalika, giving him the official curse name. Of course, sprint races weren't a problem for Marc. 1 third place finish and a 6th place finish in 2024 and 25 respectively. However, in 2025, everyone thought it was going to change. 1 week before, Marc Marquez wrapped up the World Championship at the Twin Ring Motegi in Japan. It all looked like finally it was going to change for Marc Marquez around the Indonesian circuit, the Pertamina Mandalika street circuit on the island of Lombok in Indonesia. However, through practice, he struggled and for the first time this season, would be out in qualifying 1. He did get through Q1 to then qualify P9 for his worst qualifying position of the season. For his teammate, no better. Pecco Bagnaia had probably his worst weekend of the season, not just qualifying terribly down in P16, but also ending up behind Somkhat Chantara in the sprint by not even a small margin. So factory Ducati weren't going too well around the circuit this season. And for Marc Marquez, this was a problem. Marc had consistently finished on the podium this season every race he'd finished, so going into the Indonesian Grand Prix and also having that curse where he'd never even scored a point around Indonesia in a full-form Grand Prix, he had a point to prove. However, going through one of the fast right-handers at the Indonesia circuit, Italian Aprilia rider Marco Bezzecchi hit him in the back end, causing them to both crash. Unfortunately, Marc Marquez landed heavy on his right arm, and unfortunately a lot of people thought the worst. And it was a good reason too. Marquez fractured his right collarbone, which means that he's going to be missing both the Australian Grand Prix and the Malaysian Grand Prix. At least that's what's been confirmed. So yeah, Marc Marquez cursed around Indonesia. Looking back at 2022, this was a year that wasn't very well glazed by Marc Marquez and MM93 fans. It was a year full of struggles and crashes. However, going into Indonesia, this seemed to get a lot worse. In qualifying 1, he suffered a crash on his first flying lap, meaning he had to come into the pits for his spare bike. And then towards the end of the session, he would crash again, meaning he would originally have to start from the back of the grid for the 2022 Indonesian Grand Prix. However, this wouldn't come to tuition, as Marc Marquez would have his big warm-up high side, causing him to miss the Indonesian Grand Prix with diplopia. In 2023, Marc Marquez's crash fest continued on the Honda, but eventually it was announced he'd moved to Ducati the next year, and everyone thought he might have a better result in 2024. And it turns out while he was running inside the top 5, his engine went bang, causing him to miss yet another checkered flag at the Indonesian Grand Prix. And of course, as I just mentioned, 2025 went as it did. So what's going on with Marquez in Indonesia, and is there a chance that in 2026 he could finally score some points? Hopefully. He just seems to have gotten really unlucky, so I'm hoping, and I'm sure a lot of people are hoping, that he'll have a much better result next season, and we're also hoping for a quick, fast recovery to prepare him for Portugal and Valencia at the end of the season. That's all from this video. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you all in the next one. Goodbye.